Okay, we're good to go.
Okay, welcome to the San Mateo County Planning Commission meeting of January 27, 2021. Please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Hold 1 second.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United
of
States.
the United States and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
May we have roll call, please?
Commissioner Gupta,
Here.
Commissioner Santa Cruz,
Here.
Commissioner Hanson,
Here.
Commissioner Ramirez,
Here,
Chair Ketchum,
Here.
and staff is represented by Monowitz, Fox, and Montes. Thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda is oral communications. This is an opportunity for members of the public to speak on any subject that is not on today's agenda or the regular agenda. Speakers will be limited to 5 minutes. First, staff will explain how public comment process works for our remote meeting.
Thank you. Of course. For those attending the meeting on the Zoom video conference, we will use the raised hand feature in order to organize any public comment. During the general public comment period, and for each item on the regular agenda, I will ask those members of the public who wish to comment to click the raised hand feature to raise the hand feature. For those joining by phone, please press *9 to indicate your desire to speak. Please note that members of the public must wait for my prompt in connection with each agenda item before using the raised hand function. For example, you cannot raise your hand at the beginning of the meeting for an item that is later in the meeting. Thank you. And right now, I do not see any hands raised for public comment or oral communications at this point.
Okay. Seeing none, we will close the oral communication and move on to the consent agenda. Now we have 2 items on consent, 2 sets of minutes on consent today, and we need to postpone the minutes for December 9. So at this point, may I have a motion to approve the minutes as revised for January 13, 2021?
So moved.
check.
I have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Gupta,
Yes.
Commissioner Santa Cruz,
Yes.
Commissioner Hanson,
Aye.
Commissioner Ramirez,
Aye,
Chair Ketchum.
Aye.
Thank you.
It said minutes for January 13 have been approved unanimously. Moving on to the regular agenda, our order of procedure for each item will start with a presentation by the county planner, followed by any questions from commissioners. Then the applicant will make a presentation, or may make a presentation, followed by any commissioner questions. Then we will open public comment. Each member of the public who wishes to speak will have 5 minutes. Then we will close public comment. And last, we will have commissioner deliberation and decision. Ms. Lujan, will you please introduce the first item?
Of course. We have first item owner applicant, Jake and Sarah Barcelin. I know I was gonna mess that up. File number PLN 2020-00248. Location 331 4th Avenue in unincorporated Miramar. And our project planner is Brian Albini. Brian?
Good morning, commissioners, members of county staff, and members of the public. I'll be sharing my screen now for the presentation. Can you confirm that you'll be able to see it?
Go ahead.
Okay. Are you seeing the presentation now, or just the?
Just the.
There you
There
go.
we go.
Are you able to see the slideshow now?
Yes.
Excellent. Sorry about the technical difficulty. So again, this is the 748 square foot addition to an existing 1,552 square foot home in unincorporated Miramar. This is the generalized location map of the project. It's about a block off of State Highway 1, and is a built home originally constructed in 1969 prior to the existing adoption of the underlying S94 combining district. The project proposal is largely driven by ground floor structural improvements to this existing 3-level home at 331 4th Avenue. The resulting increase in lot coverage would result in 748 square foot addition. And that breaks down to 305 square feet for the ground level structural improvements, 252 square feet for the mid-level additions, and then ultimately 196 square feet for the upper level floors. And I'll go over these square footages on subsequent slides. The purpose of the use permit and non-conforming is to address both the non-conforming parking, as you can see here with the 1-car garage, and the encroaching side yard setbacks, where 10 foot is required for all construction in the S94 district, where this home was built with 5 foot 3-inch setbacks on the right side. This is a more of a neighborhood context of the project. You can clearly see here, this is a prominent structure which won't see a lot of change that can be viewed from the public view shed, but will, however, have some structural changes to the rear. This area, this plan view indicates the changes and the extent to where they'll be, and that's mainly to the rear in these two massing areas of dormer additions. In these slides, I'll specifically go over which areas are being improved and ultimately what's driving these additions and the continuance of the nonconformity on the right side yard setback. As you can see, the comparison is clear. The areas in pink are the new additions. These basement structural foundation reinforcements are because the original design of the home had some significant structural deficiencies, and it has caused some leaks and failures of the roof system over time that can't be helped without these structural improvements to the underlying foundation to support these cantilevered stories above. And I'll explain further. So as you can see in this comparison of the existing and the second of the existing and the proposed area, the highlighted areas in pink are the areas that aren't currently supported on the right and left side by the underlying foundation. And so by beefing up that first level foundation, that would further support the additions on the cantilevered upper stories. And so you'll see here this mid-floor plan is the 252 square foot addition to the existing floor area. And then finally, the upper level plan is the 1-bedroom addition and the expansion of essentially the establishment of the master bedroom area. And that's a total of 196 square feet approximately. Now, these areas are just highlighting the changes of the front and rear facades. The areas in red indicate what's being removed, the areas in green, what's being added, and showing the difference that would be seen. So most strikingly at the street level is the removal of the wood burning fire stove in order to allow some more glazing at the front deck, at the existing front deck. Additionally, the ground floor office area will have now an exterior access entry doorway and some relocation of the windows there. You'll also notice that while it is negligible, the overall height of the structure is going to be slightly reduced because of one of the design flaws is the eaves of the existing shed roof design actually catches prevailing winds and causes lifts to that underlying roof structure. And so in the new design, that side eave area is going to be removed and reduces again, negligibly, about 3 to 6 inches of the underlying roof ridge. And then really the extent of the addition is really to the rear with these two massing areas that again are being driven by the expansion of the foundation. And you'll see on the proposed area, the area shaded in green on the left is the portion of the building that will continue the encroachment into that required 10-yard setback. You'll see on the existing right side that the building encroaches with the cantilevered upper portions, but the stairway entrance on the right side is about 9 feet. If you don't include the wall, the existing wall at the ground is about 9 feet. And again, this is an architectural rendering of the house with the modifications proposed, which wouldn't deviate much from what exists now. I wanted to focus on what occurred in the Coastside Design Review Committee and the changes that were made in the design after some input from both the committee and members of the public. So the original design included a gable roof dormer that protruded out from the existing shed roof. A neighbor to the rear had some concerns that this would obstruct their view, as shown in the image below, the initial design. Working with staff and through a lot of volunteer work with the applicant, they quickly turned around an alternative design with a lot of input from the CDRC on what ultimately would be a better design with the shed roof dormer and reduce the overall addition ridge height below the required 28-foot that's allowed in the zone now. Again, this is just a review of the development criteria matrix. Not much is changing other than the overall square footage of the building from the 748 square foot addition to a final 2,300 square foot home. This is still under the underlying S94 maximum of 2,404 feet. And really the encroachment on the side yard will continue with the 5'3", while the left side will be reduced somewhat with the improvements being proposed. And again, the overall height of the structure won't change, but the addition will have to comply with the S94 height requirements. The continuation of the one covered parking space and the two tandem uncovered parking spaces will continue with the approval of the use permit. I wanted to just cap the existing nonconformities on the site. The building nonconformities are highlighted in orange. The addition encroachment are highlighted in green. The existing one car parking spaces is shown in gray, and the two uncovered parking spaces in the driveway are shown in blue. Again, the project is categorically exempt for Section 15301 Class 1 related to the minor alteration of existing private structures in a single-family residence. The project complies with general plan policies, the local coastal program, the underlying S district requirements for development standards, and the findings for the use permit for the non-conforming situation for parking and the non-conforming structure for the side yard encroachment. My recommendation is that the planning commission approve the coastal development permit, the coastal design review, and the use permit based on and subject to the required findings and conditions of approval shown in the staff report. And again, just covering that the CDRC found that the project complied with ridge height, windows and doors, roof forms, and siding and color. And those conditions of approval are included as attachment A, that the project conforms to the local coastal program, and that the reduced side yard encroachment and single car garage would not provide a special circumstance. And these parcels that were developed prior to the adoption of S94 district, if needing improvement, would at some time require a use permit because of these underlying nonconformities. That's the conclusion of my presentation. I'm available for questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Do commissioners have questions for Mr. Albini? Commissioner Gupta? Let me start with you. Do you have any questions?
Sorry, did you call me?
Yes, I did. Would you like to
Okay,
start off with
okay.
questions?
I didn't hear that. Okay. Yes, I just have very good presentation, Mr. Albini.
Thank you, ma'am.
You answered my question about the additional parking spaces. Looks good to me. I just had two minor questions. One is, I saw in the report something about dark sky compliant lighting. Could you just briefly explain what is that? What does
Yes,
that
ma'am.
mean?
Part of the conditions, especially on the design review standards on the coast side, are to condition that all new exterior lighting have only down-facing illumination in order to preserve the neighborhood aesthetic and reduce light pollution. And so all new projects have to be conditioned where new exterior lighting is proposed, that they include those fixtures
Okay.
that have that feature of dark sky lighting that don't cause light pollution.
Okay, that's great. That's great. I really like it that these lights are pointed out, what kind and where should they be put, because there are a lot of dark areas. So that's great. Thank you. And my second question is, I'm a little confused about the heights. Where are the height measured from? Like where is the maximum height measured at?
Understood. So, and it is a little bit confusing because the existing home was built on a slight slope. So the front of the home appears lower than the rear of the home. The maximum height as measured from the ridge, and I apologize, I didn't show that clearly from the side elevation. If you can see my mouse, that would be this area on the left. That maximum area is 36 feet, or just under, and that's from the natural grade
Okay.
to the ridge height. So the new addition, as conditioned by the CDRC, was that the areas in green those new additions in the rear could not exceed, they've actually conditioned it for 26 feet above natural grade, directly at where the addition meets the existing roof plane. But because of the slight slope, it wasn't clear in the attachment attachment C of the staff report for the plans proposed. It does include and is called out by the CDRC for section 5 about where the measurement should be taken and where this addition should be under that 26 feet cap.
Okay, okay. That clarifies it. Thank you. No
No,
more
thank you.
questions.
Commissioner Hanson, do you have questions?
Yes, one question. The utilities from the pole to the house, are they going to be undergrounded?
The applicant has not proposed to underground the utilities.
There is no requirement that in this district for construction to put stuff underground?
There is a requirement that all new utility connections have to be undergrounded. But because this is an already existing home and the improvements are relegated to the rear of the home, the property owners have elected to keep what's at the front of the property to the extent possible,
Okay,
and have not chosen to underground the utilities.
that was my one question. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Ramirez, do you have questions?
Yeah, just to clarify it on the total height, what's the existing total height to the top of the ridge?
So the existing total height as measured is 36 feet.
And that's the maximum, right?
Well, the
Allowed.
maximum allowed is 28 feet. So the existing home is
Oh,
non-compliant
Non-conforming, okay.
because
Got
of when it was built.
All right,
The addition must comply with height, and the CRC has restricted that height capped at 26 feet and stipulated that that height measurement is going to be set by section 5 in the plan set. It's drawing S5 in attachment C, I believe, where they show a section of the addition and then the actual height. I'd be happy to share that if it will offer some clarification.
no, that's fine. I was just wondering, because it seems quite high.
It is taller than
it's
allowed.
Yeah, but it was sounding that, that they were actually, within the requirements, but I guess it is not, it's a non-conforming height in this case, right?
Correct.
Okay.
So because they weren't asking to increase the height nonconformity, it wasn't addressed, and the new addition will comply with the S94 requirements, except for the continuation of that side yard encroachment. So for all other things, the addition complies, save for the continuation of the encroachment.
All right, thank you. No further questions at the moment.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Okay, all my questions have been answered too. Does the applicant wish to speak?
Yes.
Commissioner Ketchum, I have a question, if I may.
Yes,
Did I-
Commissioner.
Did I forget to ask you?
Yes, you did, but
Oh,
that's
I'm
okay.
so sorry. I'm so
I
sorry.
forgive you. Don't worry. No hard feeling. I have a question about the minimum side yard setback, which
Yes,
is
sir.
non-compliance. Can you point out where is that in the diagram, please?
Yes, sir. I think this diagram would illustrate it the best. So if you notice the area at the bottom, that's where the addition and the encroachment is occurring. So the area in orange is the existing part of the building, including the stairs to the left, that are encroaching into the required 10-yard setback. And that 10-yard line is the red dotted line going across the screen. The 20-yard setback is the dotted line to the left, and the rear yard setback is the dotted line to the right. The extent of the new addition encroachment is highlighted in green.
Okay.
And
Okay.
so,
And then,
yes, sir.
no, that's okay. Go ahead.
So what's driving it is the home is overhanging this area, and so the structural improvements to the ground floor foundation is requiring that expansion into the side yard setback that's shown in green. So they've decided to, as part of reinforcing that, also add this area as part of the addition.
Okay. And then the other question that I had, which Commissioner Gupta asked, and I just wanted to clarify, when we measure the height of the new construction, it's following the protocol that it should be measured from the center ground all the way to the highest permissible height in the project, right?
So actually, it's even more reduced than that, Commissioner. The CDRC stipulated that the point at which the addition meets the home, and I'll clarify that with this diagram. Actually, this point in green. So the point where the roof meets the existing shed roof, that point from the natural grade directly below cannot exceed 26 feet. And so the maximum allowed height, ridge height in the district is 28 feet. So that is the point at which a condition will be set in the building permit phase to check with the survey letter that overall height to confirm that that is under the 28-foot max and the 26-foot allowed by the CDRC.
Okay, that's why the shape of the roof was changed, because if it was on the initial design, it would have exceeded the height limit that they are allowed, right?
Not necessarily. Actually, what was driving the change of the roof design was really aesthetics. So if you look at the bottom, the neighbor to the rear, that view is their view from their deck onto the coast and onto Princeton Harbor. Their concerns were that the dormers, the way they were shaped, were going to protrude further out. They were still set at the same height, and so the compromise amongst the applicant and the CDRC was the alternative of the shed roof design, and that point where the shed roof met the existing roof, that point couldn't be higher than 26 feet from natural grade.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Balbini.
No, thank you, Commissioner.
Okay, so does the applicant wish to speak?
Yes, we do. Go ahead, honey. This is Jake, husband.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for hearing our project. We appreciate that. Thank you, Brian, for all your help through this process. Why we're here is basically almost a year ago, we had windstorm damage that in front of the house that opened up the roof and the clear story. The roof basically from one corner all the way to the other, which measures 25 feet. That got opened up, completely compromised, and basically water started to flood in almost a year ago from about 2 weeks past, so a few days before Christmas. So anyway, when that occurred is what brought us here. So what we want to do is obviously restore it, but also make it better than what it was before, because this has occurred before. 5 years prior, owners had the same problem, but we don't want to make this habitual. So we really want to address it, but aesthetically, we don't want to change much from the front view of the house or much of what you see from the front. And as for the fireplace, that's a wood burning stove fireplace. So that chimney is very tall. By removing that chimney, because it vibrates and bangs around, and we don't need a wood burning fireplace. I don't think it's necessary. Yeah, plus health wise for our kids, we've never used it. But the chimney itself, it's, to me, it's compromised. Just the way when winds come in, the way it bangs up, that's about almost 10 stories, that chimney. So it's very big. It doesn't, the picture does no justice. So that's why that's going. Not because we just don't like it, but rather structurally, it's going to be better if we get rid of it. Yeah. And that's about it. I mean, we're gonna, really emphasize that front view with various water barriers. And the roof was changed 5 years ago, and the shingles are glued on. They're literally hurricane proof, but the wind, for whatever reason, a year ago, it opened that thing up and it just bangs on those windows, 25 feet in length. Luckily, a local roofer came out and just had to temporarily repair all that until we go through this to address the structural concerns. And that's why we have a structural engineer and everything else we're here for. We're hoping everybody can approve the project and we can rebuild. We've been out of the house a year already. Kids are very anxious to go back in, so we can't wait. We didn't sleep all night looking forward to this meeting this morning. So we thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Do commissioners have questions for the applicant? We'll start with Commissioner Gupta.
Yes, I do. Thank you, Chair. So the design, the looks, the exterior, it all looks very good to me. My only question is along what Commissioner Hanson mentioned. Is there any reason or consideration of putting underground utilities?
So the way we just didn't consider it. It was not brought up by our structural or designer as a consideration. Cost is also a factor. This was obviously unplanned. So whatever we're doing, we feel is more of a necessity versus a design versus something that was planned. The storm took us out of the house. So we're trying to accommodate costs with everything else. Obviously, COVID has placed significant delays in this, to no fault of anyone. But it comes down to minimal changes to the front. If you see the front, it's really the fireplace. That's it. So there's nothing else that we're doing much to the front other than eliminating that wood burning stove and that chimney. So we didn't think it was necessary. Structural design, they felt our scope of work regarding the front they don't feel it's necessary to do anything underground. So that was it, really. Multiple factors: cost, the minimal work on the front side of the house, other than a lot of work is going to be put in place regarding the wrapping of the house, regarding water barriers up top, the roof, regarding a new new construction windows versus those are not new construction. They call it something else, but anyway, we're addressing it really to prevent the aggressive wind damage that occurs and the clear story that really takes a lot of impact from wind. So we're just other than strengthening the siding, thicker siding. The roof will still be glued, adding water barriers, full 360 from the roof, which normally is not done, but we're going to address it below the shingles, water barrier. So we're really emphasizing structural strength to the house and integrity for the weather conditions that we face over there, more than anything. And utilities has not been brought up as a concern.
Thank you for explaining that. But to your structural engineer, the utilities coming in look fine. Like
Yeah.
there's no issue with those.
Yes,
No issue.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good design otherwise.
thank you. We want to keep the integrity of the design, what it was. I mean, that's what we fell in love with when originally my wife actually, she wanted that house. So we don't want to change nothing other than really emphasize the structural strength that the storm really showed has been compromised. So, and that's really what we want to do. And of course, while we're out, we want to make sure this doesn't occur again. So that's why we
Absolutely.
want to do more than necessary.
Right. Right. Thank you.
Thank you.
No more questions.
Commissioner Hanson?
I originally wasn't going to ask any more questions, but you kind of touched on it talking with Commissioner Gupta. Just an FYI, I've had my power lines pulled out because of storms. It is you've got a wind problem. You always will have a wind problem. It's one of
Yes.
the things of living on the coast. So being a commissioner over a period of 20 years, almost nothing impacts the value of a house unless you put a nuclear power plant next to it. Other than that, it doesn't impact your value. The one thing I have noticed for your own personal calculations, removal of wires is a $1 gain on sellability. Almost nothing else, bathrooms, it runs around 70%, and kitchens, you get 100% gain with going underground. So just put that in your considerations, back of your head. Wires do get pulled out in storms, my own personal experience. And I just wanted to make that comment to you directly.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Ramirez?
No questions. Thank you.
Commissioner Santa Cruz?
I have a question. The design looks very good. Congratulations on this design. It's really nice. One question, if you're getting rid of the chimney, are you in your design being able to put like a fireplace or something, just out of
No.
curiosity?
No. We're not replacing with any other wood burning item, no gas. The home is originally electric and we're keeping it that way as well.
Oh, okay. Okay, cool. Thank you.
Okay, now we will open public comment, and I'll turn this over to Ms. Lujan for this portion.
Thank you, Chair. We are now opening public comment for item number 1. If your hand is raised, your name will be called for this item. I will lower your hand after you speak. Those joining by telephone can press *9 to raise or unraise your hand. And give it a few seconds to see if anybody, no, there aren't any, but no, seeing none, there are no speakers for this item.
May I have a motion to close public comment?
Motion to close.
Second,
We have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Gupta,
Aye.
Commissioner Santa Cruz,
Aye.
Commissioner Hanson,
aye.
Commissioner Ramirez,
Aye.
Chair Ketchum.
Aye.
Thank you.
Public comment is closed. Now we'll move on to commissioner comment and discussion. Unless staff had any comments on issues raised? Nothing?
No,
Okay.
no, none at all.
Okay, Commissioner Gupta, would you start us off?
I like the design. I think I looked at the exterior color palette, looks very attractive. And I really, really appreciate how the applicant has tried to keep it proportional to the size of the lot, and how amicably they worked with CDRC as well as the community to come up with this streamlined design. So I'm for the project.
Commissioner Hanson.
Yes, I took out a visit to your place, and this is one of the few times the pictures in the report looked worse. When I actually went out there, I thought your house looked better than it was presented in the report. I thought your additions would even have improved on it. It was, I really like what you're doing. I like how you made best use of everything. And I hope you just take my comments as looking for an improvement in the long things I think you could enjoy and probably get something out of it in the end. So congratulations on doing a nice job.
Commissioner Ramirez.
Thank you.
I don't have much to add other than, I like the design. I think it's quite an improvement from what you have. In general, I don't particularly like, the cantilevers like you have on your existing, and definitely getting rid of that chimney will be a huge improvement on the looks of the new house. So for me, yeah, I'm ready to support.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Santa Cruz.
No further comment, just to verify that I'm in support of the project. And, if there is another comment, I'm ready to discuss a motion.
Yes, I think we're ready for a motion.
Okay, can you post the motion on the slide, please, Mr. Babini? Okay, the one before. I think the one before. Okay, that the planning commission approved the coastal development permit and coastside design review permit based on and subject to the required finding and condition of approval indicated on the staff report. And it say here, file number PLN 2020-00248.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. May we have roll call, please?
Commissioner Gupta,
Aye.
Commissioner Santa Cruz,
Aye.
Commissioner Hanson,
Aye.
Commissioner Ramirez,
Aye.
Chair Ketchum.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Congratulations.
Okay. Project approved.
Thank you,
unanimously.
Commissioner.
Hold on. We were on mute. Thank you all very, very much. Does this mean we got the permit?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, it does.
Thank
Oh
you.
my God, thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
You're
All
welcome.
right, thank you very much, everyone. So we really
Go
appreciate
ahead
your,
and enjoy your house.
thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
In good health.
Cheers.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Well, wasn't that nice? Okay, moving on to the next item on the regular agenda. Will staff please introduce it?
Item number 2, owner applicant Bel Air Heights LLC, file number PLN 2002-00517, location Ascension Drive and Bel Air Drive. And our project manager for this item is Joe Leclerc.
Good morning, Chair Ketchum and Commissioners. Thank you very much. My name's Joe Leclerc, Planning Manager with the county, and I'm here to present the revised grading schedule and haul routes for the Bel Air Heights project, which is also known as the Ascension Heights subdivision. You should have a staff report and several items of communication from the public on this, and I'm having some difficulty advancing my slides. So bear with me. There we go. So today's proposal is to revise the grading schedule on haul routes. It's to revise it from an 8-month to a 13-month schedule. It involves reducing the off-haul. So the project needs to use most of the graded material on site rather than hauling it off. And the haul routes would be revised to reduce impacts on neighbors. And the proposal is to allow limited wet weather grading for the month of February, March, and April. And that includes completion of phase 2A, which is grading lots on the Ascension side of the project, and grading in the new entry road and the utilities that would be beneath it. So you've seen this project in most recently November the 18th, 2020, where it was continued to a date uncertain. This is that date. You can see the Planning Commission has seen the project many times in the entitlement process and subsequently for landscape plan review and grading schedule and haul route review. Again, most recently in November, and today's meeting is further consideration of a revised proposal. So at the February 26th meeting of 2020, so nearly a year ago, the commission approved a schedule that was outlined to take place between May 1st and September 30th. Due to a variety of reasons, the grading was delayed and did not start on time as projected in May, started in July. And so obviously it was impossible to complete the work in the time that of the original schedule. So by September 30th, they approached the Community Development Director and asked for authorization to continue. Temporary authorization was granted pending review and approval of a revised schedule by the Planning Commission. As outlined in the staff report and mentioned at your prior meeting, there were several unexpected events that affected the project, extending the time necessary to complete the grading work. And so again, they're looking for authorization for a 13-month grading schedule that includes the months that have already elapsed since the end of July. And they want to continue, as I outlined in the earlier slide, grading during the wet season on a limited portion of the project. So looking at the authorization in February of last year, the delay as of July 28th start date, and subsequent to your November 18th review, the work they were authorized to continue has been also postponed by rain delays over those months, and which was basically to establish a stable slope. And part of the reasons for the delay that weren't mentioned prior was just a simple underestimation of the project duration. And also, of course, the approved schedule that you approved in February included shorter working times than what they originally estimated when they proposed that 5-month schedule. And we've talked about these other delays at the prior meeting. So at the February 26th meeting of 2020, you imposed new conditions on the project for grading process, and all of those conditions were met except for the one which involved off-haul and covering trucks both arriving at and leaving the site. And so to respond to that, a condition has been added in our proposal to require that all trucks be covered, or that they comply with the existing condition that all trucks be covered, and any trucks that arrive at the site that without proper covering would be prohibited from accessing the site that day. So that's staff's proposal to deal with that issue. Now, at the November 20th, 2020 meeting, I'm sorry, November 18th, 2020 meeting, the Planning Commission imposed additional conditions and allowed certain work to continue. So the applicant, by our consultants and our staff's evaluation on inspections, has concluded that they have followed the original conditions of approval. They have improved the erosion control measures to prevent offsite sediment flows, and they'll present that information in detail when the applicant presents. They've improved communications with the neighborhood by making more substantive email transmittals monthly as you required. And they limited grading operations from November 18th to those that were already commenced and necessary to establish stable slopes and allow the installation of erosion control. They're are proposing to modify the timing and amount of grading off-haul to subsequently changing the haul routes to reduce impacts on the neighbors. And this photo was taken yesterday. These two photos were taken yesterday by our code enforcement officers, and their report to me was that there was no erosion or dirt on the street or in the curbs on either side of the street. And this was after the rain had been falling for a couple of hours. So with that, I'd like to, unless you have any questions of me, I'm happy to answer those. I would like to turn stop sharing my screen and turn it over to the applicant, Mr. Ryan McGee. Are there any questions?
Do you want questions now for you, or should we wait until the applicant, or you prefer to wait and then ask?
I think it's best to wait until the applicant presents, but if
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, if there are any now, I'm happy to answer them. So I'm going to stop sharing and let the staff from Lee and Braze present their project proposal.
Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. Let me pull up the presentation real quick. All right. Can everybody see the screen?
Yes.
Perfect. And then can you also see my mouse? I was going to point to some things, but I wasn't.
Yes, I can.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Perfect. One moment. All right. Good morning, Planning Commission members, San Mateo County representatives, and those of the community who are attending this hearing. My name is Ryan McGee. I'm a representative from Lee and Braze Engineering, the project civil engineering firm, and I'm presenting on behalf of the developer and contractor for this project. If any questions arise after this presentation directed toward the developer and our construction team, they are on the call and will be able to help address any of these questions and concerns. So we'd like to start this presentation by outlining the topics to be covered. First, we'll review the work progress to date. Second, we'll review the extensive safety measures in place now and during the moratorium if granted approval from the Planning Commission. Third, we will review a revised schedule for during and after the moratorium. Fourth, we'll review the concerns brought forth by the community during the previous Planning Commission call on November 18th and how they've been addressed since. Lastly, we will conclude the presentation with a quick summary and highlight what we are requesting from the Planning Commission. So starting with the work progress to date, the grading of lots 1 through 4 along Parrot Drive is almost completed. The area is currently stable and winterized with erosion control measures. The additional grading is planned to commence after the grading moratorium. The item number 2, the temporary roadway from Bel Air Road to the Cal Water tank in order to maintain access for Cal Water has been completed. The Base Rock Road from Bel Air Road to the Cal Water tank has also been completed. The grading of lots 13 through 19 along Ascension Drive have been started, are currently in progress, and covered prior to any rain events as required by the project rain event action plans. And the surface erosion repairs, as requested in the last Planning Commission by the neighborhood and the Planning Commission, have not been started and will not be started until after the moratorium. The majority of the off-haul has been completed, and there are no plans to continue off-hauling until after the moratorium. Weekly SWIP and AES inspections have been conducted on site. And lastly, pre-rain and post-rain event inspections have been conducted as required per the project SWIP requirements. This includes prior notice with rain event action plans and implementation of upgrades to the erosion control measures. Moving on to safety. First and foremost, we want to express to the Planning Commission, San Mateo County, and the neighborhood that we are committed to adhering to the strictest site protection plan and the safety of the neighborhood. We are constantly upgrading the erosion control measures through feedback from the QSP, AES, and San Mateo County officials. When erosion control measures are deemed no longer adequate, they are refreshed and or adjusted to better suit the site. During the last Planning Commission hearing, the neighborhood presented safety concerns, and we want to let them know that these have been addressed. Within days of the last hearing, the developer, contractor, and QSP met on site to review the areas of concern and developed plans for correction. This was the last hearing, and then this was the date in which we went out, met with the developer and the contractor to review everything on site. Some of these corrections include excavating 2 sedimentation basins to collect and detain the site runoff, installing plastic sheeting on exposed steep slopes, installing straw blankets on completed slopes and disturbed areas throughout the site, additional sandbags, gravel bags, and minor grading to redirect from existing driveway entrance and toward the vegetated areas, as brought forth as a concern by the neighbors of runoff from the existing driveway entrance in the last meeting. The next slide will display some of these measures. So before you is an aerial photo of the construction progress on the northern portion. Here's Parrot Drive down here at the bottom, displaying the grading progress. So the temporary access road from Bel Air to the Cal Water tank has been completed, as well as the Base Rock Road from Bel Air to the Cal Water tank. Grading along Parrot Drive is almost complete and currently winterized with straw blankets and straw rolls. And there's minor grading still required for lots 1 through 4 and part of lot 8. And here are the before mentioned erosion control measures. So we have 2 sedimentation basins, one here, to collect any of the runoff from the site from all areas to be detained before actually running off. Plastic sheeting along the steep slopes, straw rolls, straw blankets on disturbed areas to prevent any surface erosion. Moving on to the other side of the site. Before using an aerial photo of the construction progress on the southern portion, the Ascension Drive side. Here you can see the other side of the completed Base Rock Road, and then also the temporary access road that was completed. As you can see, lots grading for lots 13 through 19 are currently in progress. Please note that after the last Planning Commission hearing, as Joe mentioned, the developer reached out to the Building and Planning Department to understand what work could be continued, and they were instructed that only work that was already started could be continued and then must be covered with erosion control materials when finished. So this limited the contractor and developer to only working on finishing the Base Rock Road, as well as the lots 13 through 19 grading. Here you can see some of the erosion control materials installed on the graded areas. So there's additional silt fences, plastic sheeting on steep slopes. And since this picture's been taken, more has been added, more plastic sheeting across the steep slopes and straw blankets along the disturbed roadway. Lastly, denoted are the construction parking areas for equipment and employees. So typically the employees park over here and a lot of the equipment is over here. There have been concerns brought up by the neighborhood regarding parking off-site, but the developer and contractor have confirmed that this only occurs for a few minutes. This typically happens at the beginning of each day if multiple people are arriving at the same time, or at the end when leaving the site, because they have to walk up to the gate at the entrance to close the access gate and then walk back down to their car. And then if it's during a rain event, they have to put the sandbags out so they don't park in that area, but across the street. We've also included markups from our November 23rd site meeting and pictures to reflect the updates that occurred in more detail. So first, it was determined that the plastic sheeting to be installed on all steep slopes around sediment and around sedimentation basin number 2 here. On the picture on the right, you can see they installed plastic sheeting on all these steep slopes, and you can see that the sedimentation basin is functioning and actually collecting site runoff. One thing to note is that these sedimentation basins are not required, but it was determined that these basins would help address the neighbors' concerns and reduce any runoff from the site, which is why they were implemented. Second, we determined plastic sheeting must be along these steep slopes and straw blankets must be on all disturbed areas. As you can see in the picture before you, the contractors installed plastic sheeting along the steep slopes and covered the disturbed areas with straw blankets and straw rolls as requested. The plastic sheeting was also requested to be extended along the cut slope along that base rock road. And as you can see on the right, they did just that. Next, we decided that the contractor must do some minimal shaving of this grade right here to help control and redirect the runoff from the existing entrance to the nearby vegetated areas towards the car in that picture. This was to address the neighbors' concerns during the last meeting regarding runoff from the driveway. We also requested that the contractor install sandbags during rain events to help use those as redirecting the flow to those vegetated areas. As you can see, grading has been done in this, minor grading, shaving, and they've implemented sandbags during rain events to direct all of that. Not only did they do exactly what we requested, but we noticed a significant decrease in site runoff from the construction entrance. Lastly, the contractor added more erosion control materials downhill of the sedimentation basin outfall. We requested that where that overflow outfalls, they add more straw blankets, sandbags, and a silt fence. And so you can see on the picture on the right, they added straw blankets, gravel bags, silt fences to help strain any of that sediment before it goes down to the vegetated areas towards Bel Air. Next, we'd like to shift gears as to how we're keeping the site and neighborhood safe during the rain events. So as required by the SWIP, this project requires rain event action plans be implemented when one of the following occurs. Either a 50% chance of rain within a 48-hour period, or greater than 1/4 inch of rain predicted in a 48-hour period. As a reminder, these are required for the State Department of Water Resources. As the QSP inspector for this project, Liam Braze visits the site weekly and, as required for the rain event action plan, before, after, and during rain events. Since November of last year, 8 rain event action plan inspections have been conducted on top of the other weekly inspections that are required per the SWIP as well as the conditions of approval. The rain event action plan is then sent to the contractor and an inspection is conducted 48 hours in advance to the event. After these inspections occur, the contractor makes any required corrective actions as quickly as possible. And to go another step further, the developer and contractor have decided to evaluate the site conditions prior to grading after a rain event, and in many of these instances have delayed construction to ensure the safety of grading operations and staff on the job site. For example, on December 12th and 13th, the site experienced some rain. Instead of starting grading immediately on December 14th, they decided to postpone construction until the start of the next week, December 21st, before continuing because they felt it was in their best interest for the safety of the neighborhood, the site, and all of those working on it. Also, as requested by the neighbors at the last Planning Commission meeting, the developer has added a new item on their existing sign at the entrance for rain events. This signage states no grading 24 hours after a state water board qualifying rain event. The reason for this particular verbiage is that sometimes it may only sprinkle and sometimes it rains more than 1/4 of an inch within 48 hours. We wanted to distinguish that work could potentially be continued after a small drizzle, but will definitely not occur 24 hours after an actual rain event or based off of the developer's best judgment beyond 24 hours after that rain event. We would also like to point out that the developer and contractor are doing everything in their power to be proactive with erosion control materials, but like any job site in the county, sometimes reactive measures must be taken. Not every project's perfect. And for example, on January 4th, one of our silt fences on the project was breached and silts were carried down to the property towards Ascension. Since the QSP and contractor were on site when this event occurred, the breach was repaired immediately and the runoff was restored to acceptable levels within hours. Since there was turbid water leaving the site, due to this instance, the events and corrective actions were recorded and provided to the State Water Board as required by the Stormwater Pollution Prevention Plan. Next, we would like to explain how the contractor with more than 50 years of local experience is going above and beyond to ensure the safety of the site and the neighborhood. The owner of the construction team is on site during all grading operations to ensure they are done properly and safely. They even suspended all off-haul until at least May 1st to limit the impact to the neighborhood. And most importantly, they suspended the grading work along Parrot Drive and the surface erosion repairs along Ascension Drive until after the moratorium. The developer and contractor are maintaining a very safe site by continuous inspections, safe construction practices, suspending additional grading operations, and implementation and repairing of erosion control measures swiftly. With that being said, they hope Planning Commission will agree to allow them to continue some work during the moratorium to catch up on the schedule that was delayed for various reasons, including this global pandemic we have all had to adapt to. Next, we will review the revised construction schedule. Before you is a revised grading schedule. They are requesting approval from Planning Commission. The activities before you are those of which have already been completed up to now. So from cutting and clearing vegetation through the start of lots 13 through 19, ending on January 5th. Before you is a list of activities proposed to be continued and completed during the moratorium with estimated timelines and duration. The goal is to complete the phase 2A grading for lots 13 through 19, estimated to start, if approved, tomorrow and concluded by March 3rd. We would also like to cut in the new driveway entrance right here from Bel Air Road starting February 23rd. The phase 3A grading and off-haul will not commence until after May 1st. Lastly, they would like to complete utility work during the moratorium, which is not considered grading. This will consist of new water, storm drain, and sewer lines starting as early as March 29th. This construction of the new entrance is crucial to the placement of the utilities as they will follow the new roadway as required.
Excuse me, Ryan.
Yeah.
This is Joe Leclerc. I just wanted to confirm that with regard to your statement about starting tomorrow, that that won't happen because of the rain event, and that will be delayed if it's approved by whatever time it takes to dry out the site and create safe conditions for that to happen.
Okay, so potentially sometime next week instead of the 28th, pending the soil drying out from the rain events we're currently on.
Thank you.
Thank you. Here are some additional items, including the remaining utility work to be completed outside of the grading moratorium for your reference, with the exception of the storm drain curb inlets. These will be a continuation of the storm drain work from the previous slide, so they come a little bit earlier than some of these other utilities. Please also note that there's a typo in the schedule, and we apologize if it's created any confusion for the Planning Commission, San Mateo County staff, or the neighborhood. Item 34 is written as landslide area repair. This is actually surface erosion repair. There to date have not been any evidence of actual landslides on this site. So once again, sorry if there's been any confusion caused because of that language. All in all, the requested grading activities and utility work would start as early as January, well, as Joe mentioned, potentially sometime next week, pending the rain events. And as late as July 27th with the underground utility work. So the grading of lots 13 through 19 is estimated to be 25 days. The new construction entrance is estimated at 50 days, and the underground utility work is estimated at 87 days. So before you is the approximate location of the new driveway entrance, requested to be graded during the moratorium. It's off of Bel Air Road. Now, some of you might be asking, why are they requesting additional work during the moratorium, such as the driveway entrance? Well, first and foremost, by continuing work during this time, the construction team can continue to catch up on the lost time due to the pandemic and other various reasons. Second, it would allow for utility relocation and upgrades for Cal Water, the cell tower companies, and PG&E. Third, it would remove more than 45 houses from the truck haul route and limit the impact to the neighborhood because the trucks could enter the site from Bel Air Road instead of winding through Lakeshore and Rainbow Drive. Better yet, the majority of the soil used for this work will be used for backfilling lots 13 through 19, and the remainder will be stored on site. So the contractor is adamant that they will extend no off-haul window during May 1st. So everything, if off-hauled, won't happen until after the moratorium. Lastly, as mentioned by the Planning Commissioner Ramirez during the last hearing, if more work is completed now, less work will impact the neighborhood and CSM traffic later when we all go back to a state of normalcy post-pandemic. The following slides will help paint a picture as to the change to the truck haul routes and the impacts. So this slide may seem very familiar to the audience, the Planning Commission, because it's the truck haul route approved at the Planning Commission hearing back on February 26th of 2020. First, the truck haul route comes up from Highway 92, comes up Paul Hemus. One area to note that we put on this markup is the turnout area. This is what Joe was mentioning earlier, I believe. The developers requested that haul trucks pull off at this Paul Hemus pullout. Well, that's a tongue twister, to ensure their tarps are fastened before heading up to the neighborhood and to the site. Also, this route currently utilizes Rainbow Drive and Lakeshore Drive before dumping down into Bel Air and to the job site. This route is only required during phase 1 of this project. After phase 1 has been completed, including cutting in the new driveway on Bel Air Road, the haul trucks could then utilize this alternate and previously approved route shown before you in red. You can see that instead of utilizing Rainbow and Lakeshore Drive, they're only utilizing Ascension and Bel Air Drive. After listening to the neighborhood's concerns and during the last Planning Commission hearing, we are proposing the entrance work now to minimize the overall impact to the neighborhood. The 45 plus red houses highlighted before you will no longer have to worry about the haul trucks passing by their homes and can feel more comfortable driving to and from their neighborhood. On the topic of neighbors' concerns, such as safety, we would like to take this time to address some of the concerns brought up in the last meeting. First, there were concerns that the flaggers need to be provided radio communication technology, such as walkie-talkies. So the flaggers on site on the truck haul route who are in close proximity are operating using hand signals, and those much further apart and where required are using radio communications. As a reminder, the flaggers are not currently in position because hauling has been suspended until after the moratorium. Second, there was concern that the haul trucks were not remaining covered when entering, exiting the job site. Once again, hauling has been suspended until after the moratorium, but as shown in previous slides, the haul trucks will be required to pull off on Paul Hemus Road to ensure their tarps are secured before entering the site. The construction team is committed to strictly enforcing this rule and have agreed to turn around trucks that arrive to the site even when they haven't satisfied this requirement. Third, there were concerns of extending the haul hours. The developer is maintaining the existing truck haul hours and is not requesting approval for any changes regarding this aspect of the project. Fourth, it was requested that there be more transparency in the monthly email updates from the developer. And as Joe mentioned earlier, they've included progress statuses of grading activities, erosion control measures throughout the site, implementation of new sedimentation basins, minor grading, the new entrance to redirect the runoff from the existing driveway, and removed inactive completed activities to clear up any confusion. Fifth, there was concern that grading during the moratorium is unsafe for the neighborhood and workers. We, the civil engineer, the developer, construction team, and hopefully the planning commission agree that this site is maintaining very safe construction practices, and with a combination of the contractor's experience and constant inspections, is safe to continue through the moratorium. We also believe the additional work through the moratorium would greatly reduce the impact of the neighborhood by shortening the truck haul route. Working during the moratorium is a very common occurrence in the county and one that is usually approved through planning and building without having to go through council approval. This is a unique case, and with a competent contractor and regular inspections, we hope to ensure you that this activity is very safe and following the strictest regulations. Also, all of the currently exposed steep slopes are covered with plastic sheeting and made up of very hard rock. As a reminder of previous meetings, the Project Geotech rated this soil as the hardest they've ever encountered with decades of experience within the county. These photos were taken on both the northern, which is the Parrot Drive, and the southern Ascension Drive portions of the site, where the contractor had to excavate through very shallow bedrock. This shallow rock level and extensive erosion measures make the site very secure and very unlikely for any potential landslides that neighbors might have concerns for. We'd also like to clarify to the neighbors and the Planning Commission, per a recent neighbor concern, that this site has not undergone landsliding. The pictures before you denote the area of surface erosion along Ascension Drive, and the Project Geotechnical Engineer is on this call and would be happy to answer any questions as to how these are two entirely different geological conditions after this presentation. Lastly, the site is constantly monitored by SWIP inspectors, AES, and San Mateo County. These representatives are dedicating a significant amount of time to make sure this site is as secure as possible. As a reminder, the SWIP inspections are also provided to the state. So since August of last year, Lee and Braze, outside of the rain event action plans, have conducted 31 inspections, and AES has conducted 25. In closing, we would like to reiterate some of the information provided today. So the contractor and developer, who are both local businesses, will continue to safeguard the job site and the local community. Existing geology consists of hard rock, and all disturbed areas are protected with significant erosion measures, which yield very low risk for potential landslides. There have been no accidents or injuries on site to date. Grading during this time, such as shelter in place, would be most ideal because of smaller impact on the neighborhood and before normalcy returns. Building the new entrance would reduce future truck haul impact to the neighborhood and therefore increases safety. Developer, consultants, and the contractor have demonstrated to have good judgment and history in halting all work after rain events. Safety is always the top priority. And inspections are very regular, and erosion control measures are constantly being monitored, corrected, and updated to meet the needs of the site. We would like to now take this time to formally request Planning Commission approve the presented grading schedule as it relates to the following items: continue grading and stabilizing the slopes of lots 13 through 19, and cut the new driveway entrance during the grading moratorium, with the understanding that no other grading activities will be started. All excavated materials are to remain on site during the moratorium. Erosion control and SWIP measures are constantly monitored, and the neighborhood concerns are addressed as they arise. Thank you for your time. This concludes our presentation for the Ascension Heights subdivision grading presentation. At this time, we would like to make ourselves available to answer any questions or concerns of the public and or the Planning Commission.
Thank you. Now we'll have Commissioner questions for staff and the applicant. Commissioner Gupta, would you like to start us off?
Thank you, Chair Ketchum. I do have some questions. Thank you for presenting your plans in details, Mr. McGee. My questions primarily are for the applicant. It was good to see some real pictures of what it looks like. And I hope the picture that you showed of just yesterday, or
The pictures
that
from Joe or from us?
that even with the rain that are you still continuing doing work on that?
Currently, we're not doing anything because of the rain. We did, after the winds and the rains last night, they went out to the job site today, and the job site's holding up very well with the erosion control materials. But currently, at this moment, they are not doing any grading, if that's what your question is.
Is that also because whatever you were wrapping up has been done? Is that, and you are waiting for approval of this next schedule?
Yeah, our hopes was coming to Planning Commission that the work that we've started in this area for lots 13 through 19, we could continue because of the safe practices that we are implementing, and to approve of the schedule itself to continue that work.
Okay. So I'm just trying to get my arms around this wet season grading. It was approved many years ago that there'll be no wet season grading. And you agreed to it. Is that correct?
Joe, would you mind providing history of all of that?
Yeah, I'm happy to clarify. Commissioner Gupta, the condition in the permit said that the grading schedule needs to be approved by the Planning Commission. And the provision for wet weather grading in that condition was that it could not be approved unless it was authorized by the Community Development Director. The Planning Commission subsequently modified that condition to say that it couldn't be approved unless the Planning Commission approved it. And so it's really, up to the Planning Commission as to whether to allow it, but it was not prohibited by the original authorization by the Board of Supervisors, nor was it prohibited by you. You simply approved a schedule, the first schedule in February, that contemplated all the work occurring within the dry season. So you were never, the original approval, you were not confronted with the question as to whether wet weather grading was allowed because it wasn't proposed. So
I see.
The first time you were, confronted with it was in November, when we had, Community Development Director authorized temporary work pending commission approval of a revised schedule. We presented that to you in November. You authorized the continuation of some work until a more responsive schedule could be presented to you at a subsequent date. And here we are at that date. So there's no prohibition on wet weather grading, and I believe that the applicant has accurately characterized, wet weather grading in the county is not uncommon. There's a 10-lot subdivision on Jefferson that was approved for wet weather grading by the community development director. It's been graded at the same time as this project, and subject to the same kinds of erosion control, rain event closures, and other measures to protect the environment and to protect neighbors.
Okay. Thank you, Joe. Thank you for explaining that. I understand what you are saying. Okay. So it was good to see, Ryan, that there's a plan. You have thought it through how to address various processes as you go along. And I'm sure there are surprises at times, but the developer or the contractor is experienced, has many years of experience, and they have been able to take care of those. So that is very good. Okay. And I totally agree with you that safety is our top priority here. So a question I have is how you explained it some, but I would like to clarify. How do you handle rain forecast?
Rain
Like,
forecast? Yeah, so according to the SWIP, the rain event action plan kind of goes as so. So every day our SWIP inspectors, our QSBs, are reviewing the forecasts. They determine if within 48 hours there's a 50% chance of rain, or if there's going to be more than a quarter of an inch of rain in a day within that 48-hour period. Yeah, correct. And then what they do, and what they have been doing since this project has been part of this moratorium, is they issue the forecast as well as the rain event action plan to the contractor and developer. They review it, they meet on site, they look over the erosion control measures, see if anything needs to be, buffed up a little more or replaced 48 hours prior to that rain event. That way, when the rain event happens, everything's buttoned up, cleaned up, ready to go, and protected for when the rain actually falls.
So, right. So there are construction crews there every day to make sure that that the condition of the soil is such, doesn't need any extra protection, any covering them, putting sandbags, or any additional measures to be taken. Is that correct?
Correct. So AES, the Liam Braze as the QSP, as well as San Mateo County officials are weekly reviewing the site and upgrading all of the measures as deemed appropriate. And then prior to the rain event, an additional inspection is required for that. Everything goes through the process, and there are people on site from the developer or contractor team putting out those sandbags, adjusting the plastic sheeting as needed, making sure there's straw blankets staked down and everything.
Excuse me, Commissioner, through the chair, if I could just add to that. At the last meeting, the Planning Commission requested that we kind of increase the intensity of inspection at this site. And so my staff has continued to both do site visits and review the materials submitted by the consultant, which includes photographs of the site. And there have been times when our staff has required corrective measures be taken to improve erosion control on the site. And based on staff's assessment, this is a well-managed site.
Okay, that's great. we also received one of the newsletters or updates that is being sent to the neighborhood, the monthly update.
Mhm.
Is that also sent to the county, to the planning division?
I believe so.
Joe?
Yes, it is. We receive those weekly and review them.
Okay, okay, great.
Excuse me, monthly. I'm sorry.
Monthly, right, correct, monthly, okay. Very good. Okay, and so this concludes this question here. And my second question is that in this schedule, the items that are being done during the wet season, those are not truly grading type of activities. Is that correct? Am I understanding it correct?
There might be some confusion from what I said earlier. So there will be grading in this area shown on the slide, lots 13 through 19, to finish grading it and stabilizing the slopes and winterizing it even more. And then the other section is the new entrance. The new entrance would require grading, all of which would be kept on site and utilized for backfilling this area on the screen. And then whatever is excess will be stockpiled, covered, and hauled off the site at a later date after the moratorium. And then the utility work, I think is what you're referring to, is
Okay,
not
yes,
deemed grading. Yeah,
right. So that utility work is really happening in parallel, right?
that is correct.
Yeah, that is happening while grade. Sorry, I missed that grading part. Yeah, okay.
Would you like me to go to the schedule that shows those dates with all of them next to
Right.
each other?
Right, okay.
Let's see
And
here.
based upon all the delays that took place for whatever reason, you are prepared now. You have learned from that, and you have built in your contingency plan in your new schedule. Is that correct?
Yeah, based off of getting into the groove of understanding all the erosion control, extra efforts, as well as the inspections and the grading, getting through the material itself, the contractor and developer feel confident with this schedule, with the exception that Joe had just mentioned about that January 28th might not happen tomorrow because of the rains, because of soil, and it's raining tomorrow. So that would be pushed to probably early next week, pending the soil saturation levels.
Okay. And my last question is, just for my clarification, which side are these lots 13 through 19?
These are on the Ascension Drive side of the property. So
Ascension.
looking at the, here you go. So Parrot is along these houses back here. This is Bel
Right.
Air running here, and then Ascension is down below here.
Ascension is there. Okay. So there are no homes on the same side of Ascension. They are across the street. Is that
Exactly.
correct? Okay. Thank you very much. That's all I have at this time.
Thank you.
Commissioner Hanson.
My initial questions have been addressed. I have no further ones at this moment.
Commissioner Santa Cruz. No, Ramirez, sorry, skipped you. Commissioner Ramirez.
Yeah, just a quick question, if you can kind of illustrate us on a day like today. Do you have crews on standby checking the progress of the storm and what it may be doing to the drainage?
Yeah, so there's people on site to help with erosion measures as they need to be, like if things need to be adjusted, but there's no actual physical grading going on while they're there.
So yeah, correct. So you're not doing any work, excavation of any kind, but obviously you prepared the site for this storm that was coming, that we're going through. And just to clarify that there is someone there actually monitoring the situation in case that anything happens, right?
Correct. Between the developer and the contractor, there are people on site daily to review all of this, and if there are issues, correcting them immediately.
Okay, and that's the way that it's been happening. I mean, throughout now the rainy season, even though
Yeah.
we haven't had that much rain prior to now.
Yeah, that is correct.
Okay. All right, no further questions at this moment.
Commissioner Santa Cruz.
Okay, I have a question regarding the completion of the grading that it was stated by the engineers. It says that lot 1 to 4 has been already completed. And correct me if I misunderstood it. And then lot 13 to 19 is 65% completed on the grading part, right?
Correct. So based off of the staff report you might have got, instead
Okay.
of placing completion, we were informed that it's probably 95 to 97% complete. So we didn't want to mislead you and let you know it is totally complete. So
On
we just
the
changed it to
13
closer.
and 19, right?
13 through 19 is about 65%. Lot 1 through 4 is probably closer to 95%.
Okay, so basically, all in all, you already have about 58% completion in general of the project. The grading has been completed 58%, right?
I'd have to check with the developer and the contractor on that percentage as they're following the schedule.
Because I'm taking this percentage based on the information barely given to us, and when it comes to lot 5 to 12. And what's the percentage of the completion of the grading for 5 to 12? It looks like has not been starting or have not been completed, right?
So basically, we have to finish lots 13 through 19, fill it in, and then the remaining work can kind of occur in this top portion of the site.
Excuse
Okay.
me. I'm sorry to interrupt through the chair. Ryan, do you have the slide that shows the lots overlaying on the grading? Or
I do not, but I can pull up that image and share it on the
Oh,
screen.
Joe, that's okay. I'm leading to this. I want to make sure if we asking for a waiver of the wet season, and we are now discussing a realistic schedule during which you will be able to complete the project of grading. So basically, if I see lot 1 to 4 has been completed and lot 13 to 19 is 65 completed, and lot 5 and 12 have not been completed. So basically the grading that you have completed is 58% of the total project. You know, it's a gross estimate if you have not completed lot 5 to 12,
yes.
right?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay, so you have 57, 58 completion of the grading. Do you think with the proposed waiver, with the proposed, are you going to be able to present a realistic schedule where we're not going to come back again and review this project, considering the fact that you have not completed 42% grading on this project? Do you think you'll be able to do that? Is that a realistic grading schedule to perform?
I believe so. We could have the developer or the contractor chime in because they're the ones doing the work, but granted this schedule and being able to make up some of that time that was lost for the pandemic and other various reasons, they feel confident that we can continue rolling through the other grading out of the moratorium prior to the next moratorium and not have to deal with it.
Okay, that's my main concern when I see communication pieces with the neighborhood regarding the waiver of the wet season and regarding a realistic schedule during which you will be able to complete the grading, considering the fact that all in all, regardless of the issues or cases for which you have been delay the grading, and understood it or not, because of the COVID season, maybe one of them. Realistically, you have completed in the period that you requested this project to be completed, only 58% of the project grading. So basically almost half. So you'll be able to complete when you come here and request the waiver. Have you discussed with the soil engineers and the expertise in the area that this schedule that you're presenting is a realistic one, that you'll be able to comply the project with the minimal intrusion to the neighborhoods around you? That's my concern.
Yeah, and I think the main issue for the geological issues were that surface erosion area, which is why we're not doing it until June, but it's only 30 days. And so we feel that very confident that that will happen before next October, as well as the other grading for the 5, 6, 7, 11 is deemed to be completed by August 20th, which gives us extra time between then and the moratorium. And then all of the other work is to be completed by June. So.
Okay, thank you very much. That was my only question, Chair Kedcha.
Okay, thank you. I'll open it for public comment now and turn this over to Ms. Lujan for this portion.
Thank you very much. I'm going to go ahead and just take the slide off of, stop sharing the slide for a minute. But we are now opening public comment for item number 2. If your hand is raised, your name will be called for this item. I will lower your hand after you speak, and those joining by telephone can press *9 to raise your hand. Let's see, I am seeing a few hands up at the moment. So right now I have 2 hands raised. Let me just pull up my timer. Give me 1 second. Okay, great. And so, hold on. Thank you for bearing with me. So we first have Donald and Laurel Nagel. Please accept this request. Unmute your microphone and begin speaking. You will have 5 minutes. Can you hear us?
Janet, I just hit unmute. Can you hear me?
I can.
And then I need to try to share. Last time we did this, I was able to share and I just don't see the.
You know what it is? I can't share 2 things at once. So I'm gonna have to put my timer off to the side and do it that way. But hold on a second.
I have a timer here as well. And then if you give me permission to share.
Yeah, let me just try to get this off of. Oh no. Hold on.
And we're 2 hands here, so we're 2 separate people. We're just sharing the same screen. So we'll be presenting HOA slides, and so I would stop after 5 minutes, Janet, and then Laurel's 5 minutes would start after that.
Okay, I think
right, because we're 2 separate speakers.
Okay.
Okay. So I'm looking for the share. And it didn't come up. I think last time you had to give me permission to share.
You should have permission. Okay, I'm gonna switch you over to panelists for a moment. So
I think that's what you did last time, and then you took me off when.
Sure. There you go.
Okay, so can people see this? Just to confirm. Fantastic.
Yep.
So Donald Nagel, one of the officers of the Baywood Park HOA. First, let me say I really appreciate the slides and material that Ryan McGee shared. Wish we had had them sooner, which I'll get to in a little bit on one of our points, and we could have shortened this deck. The first basic point of the HOA, and again, we repolled the neighbors, is that this was a known restriction. With all due respect to Mr. Leclerc, it was not as cut and dry that this was not an issue as he recalled in answer to the commissioner's earlier questions. The development team really could have modeled this in their business case. This is a complex project. They should have assumed before buying the property there's a chance something would have stopped, and that's their issue, not the county's or the public's issue. Also, we took a photo yesterday. We applaud the work they've done since in cooperation with the county on erosion control. However, large chunks of Parrot were uncovered yesterday. Here's the photo. You can see 4 sections. This is a big portion above Parrot. We went this morning, they were still uncovered. And there was a crew trying to double check the site yesterday, but they overlooked this. Our concern, as you can see in the bullet, this incomplete compliance to protective safety measures is unsettling to us. They knew this was a big storm and they somehow missed that they had left uncovered a large chunk above Parrot. And again, we went this morning and took photos and it's substantially the same, still uncovered. We just wonder if that is their approach, that they'll periodically miss things that are potentially dangerous. So our main point is that we would like you to deny this request. Now, assuming you're going to move forward, there are 2 main scope areas. The Ascension one, and it was hard to tell from the pictures, that's a very steep hill. Lots 16 through 19 are all 50% slope. In fact, there was a crew this morning cleaning up a partial landslide that did occur overnight. We have a photo of that. It was too late to add to the presentation. At the bottom of Ascension, dirt had rolled down the hill and the crew was picking up the dirt. Again, we applaud they did it, but it's another sign that just a bit of rain and Ascension is going to have it go downhill. So if you were to do it, we'd like you to modify so that perhaps it's 13 through 15, right? That where there would be the work, because that's the flat portion of the top of the hill and not the very steep 16 through 19. We also have some concerns about the entry road to Bel Air. There will be some complex engineered retaining walls, and building them during the dry season would be much safer than building them during the wet season. Also, Bel Air is a blind approach to the site, and when the roads are wet in the rain season, they will have to have equipment temporarily in the road to do some of this work. Would be safer during the dry season. The last part, Ryan McGee's presentation added the line so we understand that it's not the typo. In terms of improved communication, I asked Janet to forward the most recent email so you could all see it. Here is what it is. If you look at the bottom in blocked blue, that is all we have received about future work. This is intended to be clear to us about future work, and you can see that 3 weeks of the 5-week period are discussed. There's nothing for the 15th, nothing for the 22nd, and the next newsletter is due February 26th if they do it monthly. And you can see that the 1st and the 8th week just say continue, continue, continue. It's essentially the same as it's been. We believe it hasn't met the spirit. We would love to have seen Mr. McGee's slides ahead of time. We request weekly updates. What we've learned in August, September, October, November is that the monthly updates become inaccurate within a week, that the work changes on the hill. All we're asking is for accurate updates, like weekly updates. It should be easy. We'd welcome monthly calls where they could share these and other slides. We'd love for you to add that. It should be trivial, easily, and earn a bunch of goodwill. We have a series of questions and comments. They talk about a dry day. They were still confused how long they can continue. In answer to a question, they said a bit of rain they could continue. Well, technically, can they go to a 1/4 inch? Can they go to a 1/2 inch? We would like clarity. Also, while they said flaggers, we still don't see Parrot Drive called out in writing. There is that blind hill. You saw it last time, the truck in the middle of the road. We would like a commitment so that Parrot Drive really will have the flaggers whenever they finally get there, as opposed to the ambiguous will determine the appropriate places. We love the commitments they made about off-haul trucking. Also, the updated sign on the site entrance. The sign that Mr. McGee shared must be inside the site, and part of the condition was this was for neighborhood communication. There's been no changes exterior to the site and signage. It's an easy add, and we thought that's what was going to happen. And then the erosion control repair happening when Mr. McGee shared 3 sections of Ascension. Are all 3 going to be covered? I just have a couple more points and then we'll actually be finished. It's not shown anywhere in the plan where the rerouting of the existing Cal water line that runs from Parrot on our side of the hill up to the water tank. This is a line that is unrelated to the project, but the project is requiring it to be rerouted in a block U shape. And it's hard to tell if that's in this plan and which line item is that plan. And that's a major piece of work. And then the new private street is actually not referenced beyond gutters and curbs in June, July, August, and the site entrance. They have done no grading of the private street above lots 3 through 7. When is that going to happen? And your approval today would include not just the wet season, but it would include everything they shared through August 20th. We also applaud that they said they will make sure that tarp trucks exit. Again, this was not the material we received ahead of time. And then finally, lot 12 has never been mentioned anywhere in the report. Lot 12 is above lot 7. When is lot 12 going to be graded? You accepting this new grading plan, it doesn't show lot 12 anywhere. And so I'll stop there, Janet. We actually got through everything, and Laurel's time would be separate when you're ready to ask for her time.
It's just a couple comments.
Okay.
Her to go now for her time, or do you want to call on other members of the public first?
I think since we're both on the line, we can go ahead and do that now.
Okay, and I've stopped sharing, and I'll turn it over to her.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay, hi, good morning. So I just have a couple of comments beyond this. Back to the semantics of, did they know about no wet season grading? Steve Monowitz and Dave Pine and Dave Baruto sat at a decent sized group neighborhood meeting up in the Highlands and really gave us the impression that unless there was an extraordinary reason, there wouldn't be grading. So it's all the trust and the faith that when they sat there and said that to our faces and looked us in the eyes, that now we're here with this. So, you know, it's just really that sense. Second of all, Ryan talked about there wouldn't be any grading, but there's utilities, storm drainage, and sewer. Well, that gets pretty, there's a whole line of that behind Parrot that would involve digging up, and we're just not sure where that falls. I mean, is he talking about doing that during the rain or not? The argument that it's better to do this now during COVID than not, I think is contrary, in that we're home and we hear the traffic, and when they're packing dirt, we actually feel the vibrations in our house. Yeah, sometimes for hours if they're you know, depending on where they are in the hill. So I wouldn't say that that's preferable. And yeah, you know, just finally, we don't really enjoy coming on and following all these little minute details and making these arguments. I mean, we'd like to think that they were put forth, they'll stay that way and things won't change. So, you know, the developer has done a lot of good erosion work. I drove around today. There was some erosion from an existing area on Ascension, but they've got lots of stuff up. The Bel Air side's really well, you know, ticked and tied. But then in Parrot, the tarps are flying, there's exposed dirt. And so, you know, it's the inconsistency that gives us a concern. And that's it. Thank you so much. Janet?
Thank you so much for your comments. I'm going to go ahead and put you back on the attendee side. And I do see one more hand raised for Mr. Gary Trott. Mr. Trott, please accept this request, unmute your microphone and begin speaking, and you will have 5 minutes. Can you hear us? Mr. Trott?
Yes.
It's really low. We can't hear you.
Okay, so
there you go.
Try and speak more into my microphone. Can you hear me now?
It's getting better. It's still kind of low, but
All right. Sorry. Every meeting's a little different in terms of
there you
volume.
go.
So let's try this. Okay.
That's perfect. Yes.
So I'd like to add my support for no grading during the wet seeding. However, it was recorded, but the current presentation from Ryan was actually very good. I really liked it. Why doesn't he share more of that stuff more often? Because it does show very adequate controls on the phase 1 grading areas after the public presented their concerns and failures on the site. Although notwithstanding what was shown this morning by the neighbors. But, you know, looking forward on the lots on 13 to 19 grading activities on slide 8, there was not nearly as much effort applied to preventing erosion. There's no topsoil in that area. The plastic sheets and the combined area water flow downhill with no anticipation of where it's going to go. And yeah, it goes towards Bel Air. And so this morning, you can look and you can see erosion dirt, you know, from those erosion channels on the west corner of Bel Air and Ascension Drive. It's in the street. The storm drains are protected. There are silt fences there, but clearly the same attention to preventing erosion and runoff has not been applied to lots 13 through 19. So, you know, having the public have to, you know, come to a meeting and point out the deficiencies, that's not really a good situation. Hence, I'd like to see no support for grading during the wet season. Thank you. I'm done.
Thank you so much, Mr. Trott. I will now call on Kim Rickett, followed by Joe Michelucci. So Kim, please accept this request, unmute your mic and begin speaking.
Hi, I'm Kim Rickett. I'm with the San Mateo Oaks Homeowners Association. I want to do a couple quick things and then get into the meat of this. I've been asked to ask you when the sewer and stormwater outflow lines will go in under Bel Air and Ascension. It was someone's understanding that this was a requirement by the county. I know this would probably be done not by the water system, but by the sewer people. But that doesn't show up anywhere, and we're not sure when those streets are going to be ripped up and that's going to be done. So that's one question. Second question is whether there's any possibility of including the planting of new trees when the landslide or erosion areas are repaired. I know that there's a plan to hydroseed, but getting those trees in there sooner rather than later would be something that the neighborhood would definitely support. And then the third thing before I start is I just wanted to express my disappointment. That slide you've all been seeing of the Ascension side that has 4 strips of plastic above a road and then another strip of plastic. Under those 4 strips of plastic, I took pictures the day of the last presentation, and that all had the original vegetation. So although I know that they're working under the supervision of the planning department, a lot of additional grading of undisturbed soil has actually happened on lots 13 through 19 since the last time you guys spoke and tried to stop it. But the main thing I want to talk about is how this changed from 5 months to 13 months. That we were promised not only that it would take 5 months of summer, but that the major grading would be over within 3 months. Now, when you look at the staff report, it says they lost 1 month at the start. I'm not going to argue about whether or not that was foreseeable. Fine, that's done. But they asked for 3 more months for utilities that they already knew that they were putting in, and another half a month to build the trail that they knew they were putting in, and 3 months additional because they're really bad at estimating time. So they're asking right there for 7.5 more months because they didn't seem to know what they were doing, which I find hard to believe given that they've been in business for 50 years. So I'm just really confused about all of that. But here's the last thing that they've said. I don't know how to make that shorter, but I do know one way, and that's to not have winter grading. We have had until this storm, one of the driest winters on record this year, and yet they've already lost 22 days to rain delays because they have to cover everything and then they have to uncover everything and wait for the soil to dry out before they can work. So they only seem to be working about half the time during the winter. And that means that what would take 1 month is going to take 2. If they are not being efficient in the wintertime, we shouldn't have them grading during that time. Now, it was mentioned that this is the best time to do it. Well, I completely disagree. Listen to the neighbors. We are all, due to COVID, we are all home all the time. I have 3 kids who are doing school from home. We are working from home. Everyone is home all the time. So this couldn't have been foreseen when this project was approved, but the impact of the construction is much heavier on the neighborhood right now during COVID than it would be at any other time, because most of us leave home during the day. So please don't think that we want this to drag through the rainy season. We want it stopped and then started again in May. Basically we were promised, also this is happening on the steepest side of the hill, the ascension side, which is the most dangerous, most prone to sliding. That's not what you want to be doing. We were promised no winter grading. And yes, there was some fine print that said development director exceptions, but that's not how it was presented to us. They're planning to work on the steepest part of the slope. They've shown that very little can get accomplished during the rainy season. And instead of dragging this out, and it's already going to be dragged out for 13 months or longer, because they only have 8 more days for that extra month they asked for rain delay. We're all home, we're all suffering through this. So please keep the prohibition on grading during the wet season. Please stop this when we're all home suffering from this. There's no trust, we don't trust them, and have them come back in May and grade then. So this is now you know what the neighborhood wants. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Rickett. I will now call on Joe Michelucci. Joe, please accept this request, unmute your microphone and begin speaking.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, well, I'm the project geotechnical engineer. My company has representatives out there when the grading takes place, and I'm very impressed with the contractor and the civil engineer and all of the precautions that have taken place. And I'm just available to answer any questions that you might have. I don't know if you heard me or not.
Oh, yes, we heard you. We will have the questions answered at the end of public comment.
Okay. I'd just like to point out that the erosion gullies that are to be repaired are going to be repaired with compacted fill with what's called geogrid. So it'll be a very safe repair. And the erosion gullies that are in place today were in place when I first got involved in the project about probably a quarter century ago, and they haven't changed much since then. So that bodes well for, I think, the safety aspects of it. Now, I know there'll be some occasional erosion and minor sloughing, but this is the hardest rock site in San Mateo County that I've ever been involved with. So that's basically what I wanted to say.
Thank you. And right now, I don't see any more hands raised, but we can give it a few seconds just to see if anybody comes forward. Okay, seeing none.
Okay, may I have a motion to close public comment?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Gupta,
Aye.
Commissioner Santa Cruz,
Aye.
Commissioner Hanson,
Aye.
Commissioner Ramirez,
Aye.
Chair Ketchum.
Aye.
Thank you.
So public comment is now closed. Would, before we proceed to commissioner discussion, does staff have any comments or replies or what to the comments that have been raised by the public?
Yeah, yes, Commissioner Ketchum, or Chair Ketchum. I just wanted to say that one point about delaying the grading now and waiting until May is that it's highly possible, kind of picking up on Commissioner Santa Cruz's point, that the project wouldn't finish before the next rainy season. And so I just wanted to, make that point. And with regard to the accuracy of the schedule, it certainly was a problem early on. I think that the original schedule of 5 months was extremely optimistic and was both, inaccurate because it didn't anticipate COVID and fire and rain delays and so on. But it also just underestimated the duration of these elements of the grading. And so we believe that this proposal is more conservative and more accurate in terms of the time it will take, to complete the work. With regard to grading the entry road, whether it's occurring during the wet season or the dry season, I believe that the appropriate use of flaggers can make that work safe regardless of what time of year it occurs. I think that when people are navigating around a construction site like that, the sight of cones and flags and signs will likely slow drivers to enable them to navigate that area safely. I'm going to let the developer speak to timing of the Cal Waterline work, as well as the work in the right-of-way. So that work is not permitted by the planning department, is permitted by the Department of Public Works through an encroachment permit process. Hence, it's not reflected in the grading schedule, but they can certainly fill you in on when that work is to occur, as well as the question about lot 12. Our assessment is that that they have been responsive to much more responsive to grading or erosion control issues as they emerge, it really is a question of judgment as to whether that's been adequate. But by our estimation, they have really upped their game on erosion control. And so, we believe that, as was discussed at the last meeting, that proceeding cautiously with 2 elements of the grading during this remaining portion of the wet season makes sense, because it will ultimately decrease the time that the neighbors are exposed to this grading activity, which could feasibly take as long as 18 months if they're further delayed. And I'll let those are my responses, and perhaps the director has other responses as well.
Not really. Thanks for that, Joe. I just, in reply to the assertions that there were promises made that there would be no winter grading. Certainly, we have recognized throughout the process that grading during the wet season is not preferable and requires specific exceptions, and that those exceptions aren't granted lightly, because we take erosion control and water quality protection seriously, safety issues very seriously. And so the department has tried to be clear and consistent that the only way that wet season grading could be allowed on the site was first they would need to prove to the staff that the erosion control and the methods that would be used during the winter season would adequately prevent erosion and protect water quality. And secondly, that calendar needed to be approved by the Planning Commission pursuant to the conditions of approval. So we believe that those 2 standards have been met. Their erosion control plan is satisfactory, and if the Planning Commission agrees with staff that it is in everyone's best interest to conclude this grading as quickly as possible, that we'd recommend you approve the schedule. So that concludes my remarks. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. So moving on to Commissioner comments and discussion. Commissioner Gupta, would you like to start off?
Thank you, Chair Ketchum. I appreciate the community coming out and speaking about their concerns, and in a lot of cases, in most cases, we look at them as our eyes and ears. But I can see that they have suggestions as to how we can proceed with this grading schedule, which I really appreciate. And those are some of the things I would like to point out to our developers here. I feel that if some of the areas were left uncovered, I think we should kind of spend a little, I would request the developers to spend a little extra time to double check that we are taking care of those. Second is that to keep goodwill with our neighbors. They've been living there for years and they care about this development as much as anybody else in the neighborhood does. So it would be good to spend that extra time to communicate with them. And they really like Mr. McGee's presentation. So include some of that information in their monthly newsletter so they know what is going on. I felt that too, that some of the things are just kind of repeated in the monthly reports. So a little more details would help everybody. Okay. And the last thing is the erosion control measures. I think a lot of measures have been put in place, which is great. Now we need to make sure that compliance is maintained. So these are my comments going forward. Thank you, Chair.
Commissioner Hanson.
Yes, to build on Commissioner Gupta's, not repeating them, I think we've entered what is the reasonableness stage. And I want to, as we have added safety concerns and restrictions, we've added time. The common cost of doing that to get where we need to be, we've added time to the calendar, and I don't want to add more time to the calendar because I think it's a diminishing curve at this point. It's reasonable to move on. The one thing that needs, in my mind, more than anything to be improved is communication. There's always been felt in this neighborhood that the communication hasn't been as it should be. Things have been added to, but it really hasn't met the demands that would make things really more successful for everybody concerned. This has dragged on a long time. This is like Bleak House, where you got John Dice versus John Dice. It's going to run forever. Let's get this done. Let's get it done. Everybody knows when it needs to be done. And communication both ways helps everybody get this to the end. I like what the schedule shows, but communication is what needs to be fixed now.
Commissioner Ramirez.
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to echo, what the previous two commissioners have said. I think, the community is our eyes and ears to try to make projects better. And I think we've listened and to both sides, and right now, the way I look at it is, I don't want this to drag on for too long, because I think at the pace that we're going, if we keep moving it farther and farther ahead, just on grading alone, we're going to be like 3 years into it. I think that the sooner that they can move forward and finish up the grading, the better it's going to be for the community overall. And I will reiterate what I said the last time. I think that, if during COVID right now, if they can get most of this grading done, in general, the overall community will be better off by removing all those big hauling trucks off the roads, by the time everybody gets back on the roads. So I think that, Mr. McGee, thank you very much for the presentation that you did. I think it clarified a lot of points for me. And one of the things I wanted to know is, like, are you guys monitoring the site, and are you able to quickly make whatever repairs are necessary to the site as needed in situations like we have right now? So at this point, I think I'm going to support that we move forward with the grading even during this wet season. That's it.
Commissioner Santa Cruz.
I'm a little bit concerned about the fact that only 57% of grading has been done during this whole years and time that we first discussed this. I don't think that still they present a realistic schedule for grading. I'm concerned about the fact that the neighbor had raised very valid points regarding this projects and delay. So a little bit of lack of information between lot 5 and 12, and some other concern addressed by the neighbor. But on the other hand, if we do not approve this grading, then this whole project will last forever, and it will directly affect the neighborhood where are complaining about the noise and the lack of communication, or and so on and so forth. I would advise that if this was to be approved, that the level of communication between the project managers and the neighbor association should increase and be more direct and honest in order to be more productive about this. Thank you.
Okay, so I agree with that we need to step up communication, and the suggestion of weekly email updates. I mean, if this is happening through email to the neighbors, it couldn't be any easier. And I understand how if you do a monthly, it does get out of date quickly. So I don't know if this has to be worded in the motion, but I see Joe nodding his head over there, just to a weekly email updates to the neighbors. And they also mentioned monthly meetings. I don't know if that's already happening, but I would definitely support that. So it sounds like we're ready for a decision. May I have a motion?
I'll make the motion. So Planning Commission recommends approval of the revised grading schedule, including the wet season grading operations, all subject to the conditions included in attachment A. PLN file number is 2002-00517. And we can, Chair, do we want to add any conditions of improving communications?
Perhaps the weekly email updates to the neighbors?
Weekly email updates to the neighbors.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Gupta,
Aye.
Commissioner Santa Cruz,
Aye.
Commissioner Hanson,
Aye.
Commissioner Ramirez,
Aye.
Chair Ketchum.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Motion approved unanimously. Congratulations. Anyway, moving on to the director's portion of the meeting.
Thank you, Chair Ketchum. I have no correspondence to report to you today. With regard to our next meeting, we will be scheduling a workshop for the Connect the Coast Side Comprehensive Transportation Plan. That was released last week, and I believe Janeth will be providing you all with a link to the document so you can familiarize yourself with the plan before we have our workshop at the next meeting, February 10th. Moving on to the director's report. There was a decision that the Planning Commission made on the RV proposal at Pillar Point. That decision was appealed to the Board of Supervisors. So that appeal has not yet been scheduled, but I'll keep you posted so that you can follow what happens with that appeal. I've been keeping you informed about the upgrade to our online permitting system that's been in process, and we are excited that the first phase of that upgrade will be released next Monday on February 1st, with the subsequent update to be released on March 1st. And we're really looking forward to this because it will solve some of the problems that we've faced in trying to do our work remotely. This online system will greatly expedite the electronic processing of permits and make our customer lives as well as our staff's lives much better. So I'll be pleased to see that release and keep you posted on the subsequent phases. At one of our prior commission meetings, there was a request that we post a video regarding a pre-application meeting for a project proposed in Montera, a new hotel. And thanks to Janeth and the team, that website, I think, is ready to be posted or is posted. One of the two. Janeth, can you give us an update?
It's ready. I'm just gonna make some minor tweaks to it, but I will go ahead and send the link after this meeting is done, so you can go ahead and take a look.
That's great. So that's a item that will be coming to you in the future, and the pre-application meeting is an opportunity for the community to give the developer feedback on their proposal. It's intended to give them an opportunity to refine their proposal before they submit their application. In this case, the applicant chose to submit the application concurrently with the request for the pre-application meeting. So whether or not it will result in changes to that proposal is yet to be seen. The final thing I wanted to mention is also with regard to Connect the Coast Side. So staff will be presenting the updated draft plan to the Mid-Coast Community Council tonight. So if you wanted to get a preview of that plan and hear some of the comments from the community councils and other that will be there, that should be available online. So that concludes my report, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any commissioner questions or updates?
No.
I just had a question on Excella. Is that what you were talking about, Steve?
That's correct.
Right?
That's the name of the software.
Right. So when does that come online?
So it's going to be released in phases. We currently have an online permit center. It's the Excella online permit center, but it's going to be revamped and greatly expanded to enable applicants to submit all types of building permit applications.
Okay.
We've divided the release dates into phases based on the complexity of the permit. So the first phase, which will be released on February 1st, next Monday, will be simple permits like a re-roof permit, a water heater replacement, window and door replacement, fairly simple permits. The second release, which is scheduled the 1st of next month, will greatly expand our online permitting capacity to include residential remodels, residential additions, and actually new residential construction. So if you want to build a new home, you'll be able to complete the building permit application process entirely online, which will help not only in processing efficiency, but also resources. Printing blueprints, as many of you know, can get quite expensive. And so electronic plan review is a game changer, both in cost and also resources, all that paper and ink that no longer needs to be wasted. So a lot of benefits will come out of this, and we're really excited about it.
Thank you, Steve.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I really look forward to seeing that, Steve. Over the years, people have asked me, why haven't we moved to a more, with the times of, having everything electronic filing for so many different things, which can really speed up the process, rather than submitting plan after plan, review after review, stuff like that. Anyway, I'm looking forward to it.
Yes, it's been a long time coming. And, I think as commissioners, you've gained understanding of the complexities of the permitting process and all the various agencies and entities we need to work with, and all the different criteria that applies depending on the location and the type of the project. And so it's been a real heavy lift to try and program that all so it's as automated as possible. So, but I think it's been time and money worth investing because, as I said earlier, it's been a long time coming.
Correct. Great.
I just want to add if you're interested in tonight's Connect the Coastside study session at MCC, their website is all one word. It's midcoastcommunitycouncil.org. And I think it's the second item on the agenda.
What time is that?
Well, the meeting starts at 7, but there is a childcare. Well, actually, might be interested in that too. The new childcare ordinance. There'll be a study session on that. Is the first item, and then followed by Connect the Coastside. So, but if you go to midcoastcommunitycouncil.org, you'll see the agenda and you get a sense of when you need to tune in or whether you want to just start at the beginning or what. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks for mentioning that child care ordinance update. Just real briefly, the staff in the planning building department have been working hard to update our regulations to make the permitting process for people who want to establish new child care facilities easier to understand and simpler to comply with, because as you may know, the demand for these facilities are great. And so, but we also want to make sure we protect the surrounding residential neighborhoods and so forth. So we've really tried to strike the right balance here. And so if you tune in tonight to the Midcoast Community Council, you can not only hear about Connect the Coastside, but also get a little glimpse into what will be coming to you in terms of updates to our childcare regulations.
Okay. Any other comments, questions? Then our meeting is now adjourned.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Have a good day.
everybody.
Good meeting.
Yeah, great job, Chairman Ketchum.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right. Bye.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody. Bye now.
Bye-bye.